It was around October time, and Dad asked his 4-year-old daughter Lucy, "What would you like for Christmas?" Said, "I would like a baby brother." And it just so happened that Christmas Eve, Mummy came home with a new baby boy she'd given birth the day before. 12 months later, it came around to that time again, and Dad said to Lucy, "What would you like for Christmas?" And she said, "If it's not too much trouble for Mummy, I'd like a pony." Go, Mum, you can do it. We parents, we go to great lengths to find the perfect gift for our children, no matter what their age. And God went to the greatest length possible to give us the perfect gift, His only Son, Jesus Christ. That's why we're here. That's what Christmas Eve is about. Gabriel Hurls was very engrossed in his cupcakes that he was sharing with his friends at his classroom for his 6th birthday. He didn't notice the enormous wrapped box that was in the middle of the classroom. One of his friends pointed it out, and so excitedly he began peeling back the wrapping, only to find the surprise of his young life. "It's my dad," he shouted to his friends at Sutro Elementary School in Dayton, Nevada. It was his dad, Army mechanic Casey Hurls, who hadn't seen his son since he was deployed to Iraq 6 months before in June. On learning that his leave would coincide with his son's birthday, Dad hatched a plan to hide in a big box, a birthday surprise that his young son will never forget. God loves to surprise us. God loves to show up in unexpected places. God loves to confound our expectations, to turn our expectations upside down. We're celebrating an upside-down Christmas. In Matthew 2:6, the gospel writer is quoting the Old Testament, the prophet Micah, when he declares, "Bethlehem in the land of Judah, you are by no means the least among the rulers of Judah." Why does he say that? Because the little town of Bethlehem had self-esteem issues. It was a modest, unassuming place. It was believed to be the least of all towns and cities in that nation. It was greatly overshadowed by its glorious neighbor of Jerusalem. Even the modern-day counterpart of Bethlehem in Pennsylvania was recently voted as the 2nd least romantic city in America. Poor little town of Bethlehem. But God refuses to overlook. God refuses to abandon. God refuses to ignore the least and the lost and the last. For those, Jesus came. "I thought you were sick yesterday," said the boss to his clerk. "I was, sir." "Well, how come you didn't look very sick when I saw you at the racetrack yesterday?" said his boss. "I didn't? Well, you should have seen me at the end of the 4th race, sir. I felt very sick then." My senior pastor in Texas once told a story of how he and his wife decided to have a vacation in Las Vegas on the Strip. And of course, who should he run into the first morning he was there? A family from his church in Las Vegas on the Strip. But before they could ask him, he asked them, "What are you doing here?" Good Methodists. And that's the question that lies behind the first Christmas. God, what are you doing here in Bethlehem, the least? It goes to show you can never second-guess God. You can never tell where God might show up. And the message for you and me is that there is no area of your life, there is no path that you might be walking right now, there is no dark corner that is beyond God's scope, that is beyond God's presence, that is beyond God's salvation. Earlier this month, you might have caught this little bit of news in our own state of Florida in Gulf Breeze, Mike Esmond. And he noticed as he received his utility bill that the due date was December 26th, 2 days' time. And something popped into his mind. He said, if people don't pay these bills, they're going to be disconnected and not have gas and water for the holidays. And decades before, Mike himself had found it tough raising a young family of 5 in Pensacola, Florida. On one record cold winter, they were unable to pay their heating bill. Gas was shut off and we were stuck without heat, said Mike. Now he's a 73-year-old successful business owner. And Mike went to City Hall, Gulf Breeze, and he asked them to put together a list of all those people that were slated to have their gas and water shut off December the 26th this week. There were 36 families at risk, totaling $4,600, and Mike paid every cent of that $4,600. It made the BBC News in England. That's the first I heard of it, on our very own doorstep in Florida. And his act has generated loads of thank yous, and people have increased in being volunteers, and people have kind of imitated that goodwill gesture of Mike. But he never saw anything in return. He never desired any payment or recognition. What he did in the world's eyes was kind of upside down. It's always, what can I get back? But not for Mike, not for grace, the grace of God. It's upside down. And God is asking you, what is the unexpected thing you might do this Christmas season? What is the unexpected place you might venture to this year? Polish entrepreneur and philanthropist Daniel, his name's Daniel. He's from Poland, and he is famous for building the first ever upside-down house. You can live in it. It's in his home village of Simsbark in Poland, and it's kind of set off a craze of upside-down homes. And the people of Moscow have constructed an amusing and somewhat disorienting version for visitors of an upside-down house, complete with upside-down kitchen and bedrooms. It's the person that's the right way up. It's the furniture that's upside down in that slide. There's something delightfully subversive. When you subvert something, you turn it upside down about the Christmas story. And even our favorite seasonal stories that we associate with Christmas. Just take Rudolph. This poor misfit couldn't even join in any reindeer games, let alone secure a place on Santa's team, until what happens? An unexpected fog turns his supposed disability into a great asset, and he becomes the hero, turns the story upside down. And of course, there's good old Charlie Brown. He must have a big brassy tree and a flashy Christmas pageant, everyone tells him, but we know the story. He goes out and he buys the saddest tree in the lot, and with a little help from his friend Linus and Luke chapter 2, so beautifully read tonight, he discovers what Christmas is all about. Turns it upside down. There's something so delightfully subversive about Christmas. The whole thing was upside down. It overthrows the established order, and the world has never quite understood, because until you have faith, you cannot quite grasp what God is doing. During a math test, the teacher asked Kenneth, "How close are you to the right answer?" He said, "About 2 seats." God, how close are you to me? How close are you to the people of Homosassa? The answer is in this Christmas message that He's Emmanuel. He is God right with us, not a couple of seats away, but right alongside us. He came to our world in a way least expected, born as a baby, by coming to a place least expected, in a manger, a feeding trough. In Bethlehem, the least turned everything upside down. And He's been doing it ever since, because in our weakness is His strength. In what seems to be failure is His grace. In the defeat of the cross is His greatest victory. Mum and Dad were attending their son's preschool winter concert and sang a little verse about candles and about holly and about reindeer and about ice for Christmas love. When they got to the M for Christmas love, the little child held it upside down and held a W instead. And the children sniggered. Adults looked away, not sure what to do. And then somebody read it out loud. Christ was love. And people nodded and said, Amen. That is the true message of that winter concert, of the Christmas season, of our lives today. Christ was love and is love and always will be love. Amen. A memorable key moment for our candlelight service is the passing of the light. And as we do this evening, we want to remind you that you receive the light from your neighbor by horizontally tipping the unlit candle and keeping the lit candle vertical. Nobody will get waxed or burned. And as we receive the light, we will sing, of course, in a few moments, Silent Night.